marker like that exclusively saying this is a Hindu or this is not a Hindu. It's not that, okay, if you don't do this kind of prayer, this doesn't make you a Hindu. It's not like that in our religion. One more example I'll give you. I may have shared this early on in the year. We went to Madurai, to the temple, the Meenakshi temple there. Okay, me, my parents, my brother. We were in line. This line is longer than Disneyland, so all you have to do is stand there and talk to each other. As we're getting closer, there's a sign at the front of the temple to enter that says, "No entry for non-Hindus," is what it said. And I asked my dad, I'm like, how did they enforce that? There's no ID badge that you carry that says Hindu on it. What are ways that they can enforce that then? Okay, chant this mantra. We come from all different sampradayas. Not everyone in every sampradaya chants the same kind of mantras. There are different shakas that we subscribe to. Okay, if you pray to this form of Bhagavan, that means you're a Hindu. You're not if you don't. That's different. That's based on which kula devata you have, which region you come from. All of that factors into there. Okay, if you have a certain kind of diet that makes you a Hindu only, that's also not the case. So I kept asking my dad, how do they enforce this? He said, dude, just stop talking, let's go do darshan. That's why we're here. Which means he couldn't answer my question. Which, there's no way to say who it is. If you say race as an example then, this guy's Caucasian, he's not Hindu. I know Caucasian friends who are much stronger Hindus than some of my Indian friends. It's true. One of my friends is named Mujib. He's a strong Hindu. Somewhere along the way he found Hinduism. It can happen. Name doesn't even signify anything. So what constitutes a Hindu? Hard to see. So we've looked at that from various angles. Now at this point we come to being a seeker on this path towards moksha, one that's clearly ascertained. Are there qualifications that I must have? For any endeavor that you want to jump into, we have to look at qualifications. I cannot wake up tomorrow and say, man, brahmachari life is too hard. I'd rather teach kids in a school, enter a school that's nearby and say, hey, I'm teaching from today. It does not work that way. I need a degree in that field, need a certification, experience. Those are all barriers of entry, building those qualifications to get in. Now, to be a sadhaka on this path doesn't mean wearing these clothes in a different name. I mean, we're all sadhakas on this path. Are there qualifications and qualities necessary? Some right off the bat would say, how dare you bring that up? That my relationship with my Bhagavan is between me and him. Who else can say anything about having certain qualifications to jump into that? Other people say this spiritual unfoldment is so subjective from person to person, you cannot fit a one-size-fits-all qualification on them, saying this is what you have to be a sadhaka. That there are different ways to get to the same point. Let's see, are those valid arguments? Now, if we want to think deeper, though, to even see what these qualifications are before debating them, let's do it through an exercise. So again, you must remember what we looked at previously. One framework we used to see how pervasive Hinduism is in our lives is the 8 areas of life that we looked at. I'll just briefly list those down again. You have career and business, what vocation you choose and what you do. You've got wealth and finance. Number 3, family and friends, hopefully in that order. Number 4, health and fitness. Number 5, there was love life, that one life partner. Number 6, there was physical environment. Number 7, recreation, entertainment, hobbies, those kinds of things. Finally, number 8, personal development, you can say. Do these sound familiar? Please say yes. Okay, good. Now, last time we did this exercise, we looked at how relevant is Hinduism to each of these areas. This time we'll do a different angle at it. For each of these areas, what is the most important quality or virtue for success in this area? What is the most important quality or virtue to have success in each of these areas? That's what we're going to look at. I need your input. Okay, I have to keep you guys awake somehow. Your input is the way I do that. So for career and business, in your mind, what is that one quality that you have to have, the most important one? Diligence, ruthlessness, deceit, anyone? No? Skill set, okay. Education. Okay, how many PhDs are there that cannot eat, you know what I mean? Okay. What are some others? Ethics, okay. To be successful in career and business, ethics. Anything else? Motivation, commitment, intelligence. Okay, you've said motivation, commitment, discipline, intelligence, ethics, all of these things, right? Are you telling me the SVP at your company then has all of these things? Your boss's boss, are you telling me they have all these things? See, you guys are like, heck no they don't, yet these are the things we point to. So really for that success, I didn't say success in the right way or anything, just what we consider to be success in career and business, what is that X factor that gets them there? Communication. Can we say diplomacy here? So effective communication, that means in essence, mastering various interactions. There are certain people that they don't like the people in power. They argue with them at their place of work. And one Samskritam Nyaya comes to mind. That if you're a fish living in a lake, don't pick a fight with the crocodile in the lake. It means don't pick on people your own size or smaller. Don't go too big. Power will hurt you. The people that are successful in business and finance, they understand these things in their career. That mastering interactions. Who can I get away with yelling at and who can I not? These are things that we should know very clearly. So communication is how they get it. Wealth and finance, what is that X factor? The most important quality. Now, I'm not saying to be the richest. Just to be successful in wealth and finance, that's different things to different people. Being comfortable financially, where you don't have to worry about things coming up, that's success in many ways. Discipline. That's it. When you open up your Amazon app sometimes, when you doom scroll on Amazon, it's the scariest thing. Because you'll see, okay, this is just $10. Or Temu, it's just, oh, this is just $2, whatever this is. Before you know it, you're spending a lot of money on that. Impulse spending is something people do. That discipline isn't there. Or the thing that a get-rich-quick scheme that I guess millions of people don't know about, therefore I found this secret, let me invest in this and do it. It's not easy. Without that discipline, there is no way financial success comes. Family and friends. What is that one virtue or secret to make that department successful? Family and friends. Communication. What else? Love and care. Plenty of forgiveness. Honesty. Trust. Can we wrap up all of this as trust? Simply where you trust is giving someone that power to destroy you if needed, but trusting them not to. Trust. Health and fitness. What's the secret? Genetics. Okay. What's the secret then? Discipline again, we can say. Where or else it becomes, Deepavali time, can't offend the people's houses I go to, I have to have sweets. Thanksgiving time and visiting my family, have to have that piece of pie. Christmas time again, visiting another family, can't offend them, have to eat. Before you know it, there is no rule to my diet, only exceptions that I indulge in. Lack of discipline for me then. It's hard as a brahmachari, man, I'm telling you. You guys make some amazing bhikshas and I walk away with the brahmachari belly. I blame you all. And then you all are the ones that go around saying, look how fat our brahmachari is. You'll do that. You guys are the same ones. You feed me and then you go around saying this too. Love life then. This one you have to help me out completely. Commitment, okay? Trust again. Honesty. This one, from what I've heard, trust with that shade of vulnerability as well. Having that openness with that person. During the pandemic, there was one group called Chinmaya Setukari. Chinmaya Setukari is that step in between being a chick member from the age of 18 to 30 versus being a boring adult. Not you guys are not boring, other boring adults, not you guys. So between that two stages of college life and then real adulthood, there's Chinmaya Setukari. So I addressed one of these groups online, and it was a group of ladies, all in their early to mid 40s from around the world. Singapore, Hong Kong, Texas, all these places. Now, in the course of it, we talked about responsibilities. That was one topic. And many of the ladies mentioned that, we face this tug of war in our life where we're educated and worked hard in school and afterwards, and now we have kids. So the two choices we have, one choice is stay home with the kids and feel unfulfilled because I'm not out there capitalizing on the hard work that I did, or go work, and the trade-off is I have to put my young kids in daycare. I don't get to spend that time with them. On top of that, there's family judgment for either decision. There's societal judgment for either decision. And they said the man doesn't have to deal with that. It falls on us. And I admit it. I said, yeah, that is fair or not. Yes, that is what it is. I understand what you're going through. Now, what's the advice on this then? And I said, I'm sorry, I can't advise you one way or the other. Whichever one you make work that's best for you is best for you. That's all I can say. But I can say this, in and through all these pressures you face, have that one person in your life, at least one person, you can openly say all these feelings to without any kind of judgment. That's the advice I can give you. 8 of the 12 women started crying on the spot. And I was like, good God, what did I do? Turns out their husband is not that person they can be that vulnerable open with. That's necessary for that love life factor to work. It's imperative that it has to work that way. So, vulnerability. Physical environment. What's the key factor for physical environment? Vastu. I'm kidding. Yeah, that is a big part of it. Now, so many in Indian community, even if it means commuting an hour and a half to work one way, you'll choose a house based on the school system, won't you? Our community values certain things like that. That does not matter discomfort of a commute, as long as my kids are being educated well in the right area with a secure environment, stable, consistent environment, that matters a lot. So given all that I blabbed about this, what's one word you'd wrap it up into? Location. That's for real estate. Location, location, location. For physical environment, what would you say? Security. Safety, security. Whatever that means to you. For me, I would meet people that have lived all over the country or the world, right? I say this often. It gives Sanjana a real laugh, so I'll say it again since she's here. I was born in Collin County. Yeah, see? I was raised in Collin County, high school in Collin County. I went to UT Dallas on the border of Collin County and Dallas County. That's my really getting out. And now I live on that same border as well. When I cross Preston, I'm back into Collin County. So every week I teeter between the two counties. Now, some could say, man, boring upbringing. You were born in the same city and lived there your whole life. I see it, though, as that kind of consistency gave me such a security. Knowing that these are my people, consistently being around them, that's a certain comfort that you have because of it. So physical environment played one role in that. Yes, the relationships with the families, the community, the helpfulness, all of that's there. Physical environment did play a role in that kind of comfort, however. So security is that biggest factor when it comes to physical environment. Recreation, entertainment, hobbies. What's the purpose of having recreation, entertainment, and hobbies? Get away from the mundane nonsense that we have to go through. Some kind of stress buster to take my mind away from there. Now, that comes in the form of the most tamasic things then. Just a Vegas visit, let's just call it that, right? From the drinking to the gambling to all those things. Many indulge in those endeavors saying that's my escape from what it is that I have to go through all the time. You look at the typical college kid's lifestyle as well. It's Monday through Thursday. I am going to study as hard as I can. Exams are over. And when Monday comes around, I don't remember what happened on Friday and Saturday. That is a good weekend, right? Or it's that indulgence. So given that we're susceptible to this kind of tamasic undertaking, this devolution at times when it comes to hobbies and recreation, what is that one key factor to have to make hobbies and recreation successful? Discipline, you could say. What else? Positive reinforcement of what's already being done the right way. Let's call it growth. Do my recreation hobbies aid me in my growth? Where there was one podcast I was listening to. There's some weird people in the world, like some really weird people out there. There's one guy, his one thing that he does as his hobby. He has a day job. His hobby is going into the Wikipedia pages. Whenever the phrase comprised or comprised of is used, he fixes the grammar there. Because, Manavas like us don't know this, but Devatas do. There are certain times you use the word comprised, sometimes use comprised of. This guy, it hurts him physically when people use it the wrong way. His hobby is going in and fixing it on Wikipedia. And that's lame as heck, right? We're all laughing at him. He countered. He said, okay, what's your hobby then? Going to a football game? What benefit comes from that? You being there and cheering that team on or booing them, does that affect the outcome of the game? How arrogant for you to think that. What are you accomplishing? At least I'm doing something that helps people grammatically. What are you doing by going to your games and stuff? Commitment? That's the thing. Hobbies are subjective that way. If it aids in my growth somehow, meaning I'm feeling I'm helping someone, I'm feeling I'm unwinding so I can refresh and recharge and be better at what I do again, whatever it is, that hobby or entertainment should aid in my growth somehow. That's that key factor right there, growth. Now this last one, personal development, this is more pointed towards, in this context, that skill set which, unless we work on it, it will not naturally come. Discipline again, to keep at it, okay? These are things like, generally speaking, I'm not pointing at anyone here, okay? Generally speaking, you work in like a technical sort of field, social skills are hard to come by. In a company, you see it with your colleagues, don't you? If not your colleagues, you yourself. It's hard to come by them, communicating with people. It's just, they want to sit in a room, lock the door, and just program and code away. They're happy doing that. Ask them to present or work with a team or something, it's like, yeah, that's not really my thing. So for those people that have a technical acumen, plus some degree of social, skills, they rise like anything then. So if not actually paying attention to how to socialize and how to interact, that kind of a person in that field doesn't get the opportunity. That's personal development. They're going out of their way to go for this kind of development. What's the key factor in that then? Know yourself. So awareness has to be there for personal development. That self-awareness of what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, do I have the dum to go and change those weaknesses and make them strengths? That awareness has to be there. So for each of these 8 fields, we've picked one quality that's a must-have. Now it's time to see what are those qualities needed, qualifications, to be on the spiritual path. Now there's a deluge of many, many different qualifications. There's one angle to look at it, which we'll use today. This is given in many prakarana granthas, meaning introductory text to Vedanta. This set of qualifications is called Shat Sampatti. Shat 6, Sampatti, wealth. Because in our mind, Sampatti, wealth is only Lakshmi Devi in the form of money. That's not pure wealth. Wealth comes in many forms. The greatest wealth is the qualities and virtues that we carry. So what are these 6 then? We start with 2 that go together. Shama and Dhamma. In English, if we were to translate, control of the body, control of the mind. This is necessary to be on the spiritual path. Now, which one do you tackle first? Meaning, which one is easier? Let me put it this way. Which one should you try to control first, body or mind? Body? Some people say mind, saying mind is the one that controls the body essentially. Why not take the weed out from the root, go to that root cause right there? Some people say no, body should be that entry point to start control. Mind is more subtle, more pervasive, so harder to control. There's an experiment I do with the Balavihar kids, especially kindergarten to second grade, where I say, okay, let's see how strong your bodies and mind are. So, controlling the body. For the next 10 seconds, don't look at the floor. You can look anywhere. You can look at me. Don't look at the floor. Kindergartners are the best. During those 10 seconds, they'll look up like this until I finish counting. Then I say, okay, was that hard to do? What are you talking about? How did you know? So easy to do. Okay. Let's see how you control your mind now. The next 10 seconds, don't think about pink elephants. And I say, ready, set, go. And for the next 10 seconds, I say, don't think about their pink trunks. Don't think about their pink tails. Don't think about their big pink round bottoms. Don't think about pink elephants. Don't do it. Don't do it. At the end, I asked who thought about pink elephants. Who did not think about pink elephants. And there's always one or two oversmart kids that raise your hand, saying, I didn't think about it. The truth is, everyone thought about it. When I'm yelling those things at you, how is it possible to not think of it? Therefore, controlling bodies, much easier than controlling the mind. That first entry then is in control of the body. That's why even when you look at the proper yoga practices, they first start with controlling that breathing. Controlling the flow of thoughts comes after all of that. Having this body sit still without any kind of movement. Being able to close the eyes without that urge to open up and see what's going on in my boring room right here. Without feeling that urge that just because the smell of a food wafts in, I suddenly have to get up and go. That physical restraint is what's first done. Then comes that mental calmness. In his small handbook on meditation called Art of Contemplation by Puja Gurudev, the very first sentence I'll never forget. The very first sentence is, make sure you find a stable spot to sit on without the bottom rolling about. That's his very first statement. From that level, that's where we start this excursion into meditation. The physical level, then going to those heights of controlling that mind. So Shama and Dhamma. Third qualification needed in this Shat Sampatti is Uparamaha. Uparamaha is desisting from any action that is not my duty. Desisting from any action that is not my duty. We had the Gurudev musical play that we performed about 10 years ago. Wow, it's been 10 years. So the high school kids were the performers, and us chicks, we were the coaches for that. There was one student, his role was to play Swami Shivananji, was his role. This dude knew everyone's lines in the play. Like, we'd be sitting there, no book with him, no script. People would be saying the wrong line on stage, he'd be like, hey, that's wrong. And I'm like, dude, that's my job to say that, you chill out. It came time for him to rehearse, like with a few weeks to go before the play. He got up there, about to start a scene, forgot his lines. This guy knew everyone's lines but his own. Uparamaha is the complete opposite. Whatever my duty is, I should do. Whatever is not my duty, not stepping in there. Or else, where's the growth for me as a person then? I can know everything else in the periphery, but I don't focus on what I have to for my own growth. Uparamaha. Number 4 then, Titiksha. Titiksha is seen as that ability to endure the pairs of opposites and the pluralities in the world. Heat versus cold, should that affect? At the mental level, sorrow versus happiness, how does that affect me? At the intellectual level, censure versus praise, how does that affect me? In these ways, staying even-keeled, even-minded, despite these different tugs that happen. Now, this is not just said, it has to be done. We were at Sandipani during the time of Gurudev's Jayanti. May 8th is his birthday. Can you imagine how hot it is in Mumbai in May? Like, this is before the monsoons come. It's like swelteringly hot. There's no AC there. Just like a fan that, is how it goes. So there was one celebration they had in the middle of the day. We're all, tired and sweating and everything. And so there was one speaker. She was a senior devotee of Gurudev. She got on stage and she said, Gurudev had the ultimate titiksha, where I've seen him sit in an AC plane and feel comfortable. At the same time, he's been on a train where the AC broke. He was sweating profusely, but still writing letters to devotees, not letting it deter him at all. He didn't even mention it. It didn't even look like he was uncomfortable. He just went on with his work. She said that's a titiksha to have. So she said all this. Then I was the brahmachari sitting next to the lights and what our Ramji is doing so well with the AV. That was my job at the Vedanta course for anyone visiting speakers that came. So I was sitting there. Because the fan would go, the noise of the fan would affect the mic. So for the speakers, I turned the fan off during that. So she said all of this about Gurudev's Tatiksha, that's how we have to be. Then she sat down in the chair next to me and she said, "Eh brahmachari, pankha lagao yaar, mar raha hu," is what she said. "Turn the fan on, man, I'm dying," is what she said. So it's one thing to say it, one thing to actually live it, right? So Tatiksha can not just come in the form of verbally saying, "I'm fine in every situation." Am I actually fine? Am I disturbed? What disturbs me? That has to be seen. So then after Titiksha, fifth quality to have is Shraddha. Shraddha in English we commonly translate as faith. Faith has that connotation of being some blind belief that is untempered by any kind of logic and not influenced by reasoning. That's not what it is in our Hindu scriptures, however. For us here, Shraddha means two things. Shraddha is trust in the words of the scripture, the Shastra. Shraddha is also trust in Guru Vakya, the words of the teacher. Both have to be there. Or else, simply going by Shastra, that which sounds cryptic already and hard to understand, esoteric in many ways, without a guide, how am I to understand what's there? A guru is needed. At the same time, only going with a guru and no Shastra. There are certain leaders today who are very popular in the world who claim to be Hindu, but they say don't read any kind of scriptures, only read my books and what I say. If that happens and you hear that, you get up and you run. That's not a true guru in our sampradaya. We don't go by simply people's experiences. We go by what does the scripture say. And if a person is truly secure about what their teaching is, it will be in line with scripture. When Puja Gurudev taught, he required everyone have the text with them. Near his last days, in the early 90s, when people knew that he was on his way out from the world, they would cry when they saw him. "Oh, we're not going to see you again, probably." He'd say, "Why are you crying? What did I teach you? When I'm gone, you hold on to these books. Shastra is what you hold on to." Yet another person came to Gurudev one time and said, if all these translations of Shastra are so freely available, why do we need a guru then? Meaning, why do we need you? Gurudev's answer was epic. He said, why don't you go ask the book that question, see what it says? Meaning, if you have doubts and you need answers, Shastra won't give that to you. Shastra is static. The guru is the one that can really mold you personally, give you that personalized growth. That's what makes it so great. Shraddha, that faith is needed. Because no matter how much logic we go through in making these concepts make sense for us, it always comes down to, at the end of the day, a few basic doubts that can never be answered completely. That how do we know these Puranas, Itihasas are true? As much historical evidence, as much as we give, at the end of the day, I have to say, it's either you believe it or you don't. In the same way, these scriptures and everything, how do we know these were revelations to the rishis? How do we know they were not adulterated over the years? How do we know that it's not borrowed from somewhere else? How do we know they're not changes and what we're seeing is not the real truth? As much as evidence as we give, at the end of the day, this is belief that it's based on. Not blind belief, educated belief, belief nonetheless. Shraddha has to have that belief turn into firm, strong conviction. Now the final one that we find after Shraddha is Samadhanam. Samadhanam is that unrelenting, single-pointed focus. Now, how focused do we have to be? Have you ever seen a 12-year-old playing video games? Where the sky could be falling, there could be a tornado, but that Mahatma is never deterred from having to save the aliens from the zombies in his video game. Where you put a bowl of food in front of them, it doesn't matter what's in there. Those eat as their eyes are on there and they're playing. That kind of single-pointed devotion we have to this path. Where come what may, nothing will deter us. Now, that single-pointedness, it's easy to talk about, but having to do is tough. For us as brahmacharis, for me and Sanjanaji, it's fairly easy to do. Without the encumbrances of many of these areas of life, we're able to fully focus on this. But think about it from your perspective as grihasthas. It is a tall order to have that single-pointed focus. So many obligations that you must perform simply because of your station in life. Now ask yourself, okay, silently ask yourself, your closest friend circle that you have, about what, 4 close friends is the closest friend circle? That's the primary circle, okay? The first people you save in a fire. Then there is that secondary circle of friends, about 10 more. Looking at these 2 circles, really analyzing the people in there. How many people can you comfortably talk about spiritual matters like this without feeling any ridicule, any eye rolling, any change of topic? How many friends do you have like that? Anyone have more than 3 friends like that? Anyone have 2 friends like that? Okay. Anyone have 1 friend like that? That's the thing. Where all of these other areas of life are oriented and geared towards this spiritual journey. Everything else is a supplement in that, yet when it comes to relying on people for this part of the journey, we find almost no one that is like-minded to do. My Vedanta course was the last one where they allowed grihasthas to come. Thank you. In my batch, we had several couples that came from America. Okay, empty nesters that came, about 5 couples like that. In each of those couples even, there was one spouse that wanted to be there, one spouse that had to be there, that was dragged there, right? It's like, gentlemen, when jewelry shopping, right? We know which spouse wants to be there, which one had to drag to be there, right? You're checking the football score on your phone and stuff while you're there, and then you're looking at it. Like that. Or the wives are so supportive you go anywhere and you're fine with it. Ladies are better that way. You couldn't come up with anything, see? They're awful. Couldn't come up with anything. So like that, of course, however, one spouse wants to be, the other one doesn't. For some couples, it was the husband that wanted to be there. For some couples, it was the wives that wanted to be there. But the point is, it was so obvious to see the pain of the other person then. Imagine support of your spouse, you go to this course kind of a thing. 5 hours every day of classes, waking up at 5:30 every day. Other person's enjoyment then. And you're sitting there thinking, man, there's no vacation, there's no weekend, there's nothing like that. Spouse is happy with it. I'm dying here. What is this? Vedanta all the time. The factors they use to make the rule, no more grihastha couples coming in. We don't want that kind of friction anymore. So even when it comes to a couple, when there's different priorities on the spiritual path, fight whatever opposition is there from anyone else around me. That's the important thing to see. That am I willing to stick with this despite that? Yes, sir.
So I just want to go back to that desisting the duty. I can't stop thinking about it. So far we've been told do your duty, right? But you clearly said desist what is not your duty. And how do we know what is duty and what is not our duty?
So 2 ways to look at this. If we're looking at it from a scriptural standpoint then, duty is determined by varna ashrama. Those are my 2 coordinates. Based on what vocation and what is good for my growth, what line I find myself in conjunction with what stage of life am I in? Brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. Many say that that kind of coordinate system to know duties is obsolete today, in that varna dharma doesn't really mean much in today's world. Then let's take it 1 rung lower then, that when it comes to what I've taken up as responsibilities in the world, am I fulfilling those most faithfully without jumping into anything that's not my duty? Meaning, having the role of a son or a daughter, that role never ends. It's not that I'm a husband and a wife and a mother and a father now, therefore that son-daughter role ends. I have to accommodate that, do my duty there. At the same time, having this role of being a husband and a father, I can't wake up one fine day and say, religion is my priority, I want to go to an ashram, peace out guys, I'm going. It does not work that way. I made that decision, maybe I didn't make the decision, but whatever it is, I have a wife and kids now. That is a duty I must completely discharge faithfully before jumping into anything else. I say this to our volunteers all the time also, right? Something I noticed that's really interesting. School teachers, right? I would meet my school teachers as kids sometimes. They were often the worst behaved children I've ever met for some reason. There's a saying in Telugu as well, I can't get it out the right way, but it's that a pujari's son is the worst behaved person in the world. They say the same thing here about preachers' daughters, don't they? They're the worst behaved. Meaning that when there is a parental figure that is so outwardly, socially conscious about helping other people, oftentimes their own kids feel neglected, therefore they act out for that attention. I've heard that from several families, which is why when so many people, sometimes they jump in gung-ho into mission volunteering, I say, hey, are you there for your kids? It's great that you're spending so much time here volunteering. We love that. We need that. However, when it comes to mealtime for your kids, being there for them, being that helpful shoulder, being that ear to listen, are you fulfilling that duty first? If not, take a step back from this. When we were CHIC members, sometimes we'd volunteer hardcore for a camp or something, and then our grades would suffer because of it. There was friction at home. If Swamiji heard about that, Swami Sarveshanji would say, next 2 months, you're not coming to a CHIC event. I've seen him say that to kids. That I heard your report card was really bad last quarter. This is the time you have to get good grades. I like that you're volunteering. Next 2 months, you focus on your studies. If that grades improve, then you come back and volunteer. And he said that to some of the best CHIC volunteers, saying it's not just about you giving time here and effort. What is your duty at this point right now? That's the duty you have to focus on. So desisting from that which is duty based on the functions and role that I find myself in, fulfilling those the right way before jumping into anything else perfectly. Now with these 6 qualities, what also we find is cultivating them does not happen like a bolt of lightning. It does not magically happen. It has to be deliberately done. Where we can say, with age comes a certain vairagya, where there's a difference between a teenager who is so wide-eyed versus an adult. Therefore, some kind of shama dhamma, control of the body, control of the mind, it will come at some point. We just expect it to. It doesn't always happen that way. How many people do you meet comfortably in their 60s and 70s? Try changing their daily routine by a little bit, like to your parents, for example. Does that start a war at home sometimes? It can. At a certain age, the comfort is there so much. One of our mission members was telling me, he's in his 50s, his father's in his late 80s. The only activity his father does, given his health and everything, is a temple visit on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday afternoon, visiting the temple. For that, he takes 1 apple, 2 kela, is what he takes there. 2 bananas and an apple to offer as the naivedya. Starting on that Friday, he will keep saying, where are my 2 kela and where's my banana? Where's my apple to take to the temple? And they'll say, Papa, it's not till Tuesday, man. We'll get it Monday or Tuesday morning. No, you have to get it. And then reminding them Saturday, again on Sunday, Monday telling them you better not forget. This is a weekly thing. So just, that's the one thing that he does. If bananas and apple are not ready there by Monday at the latest, he has a big tantrum that happens. This is a man who's 80 plus. Meaning at some age, there is this tenacity and tendency that comes up that things have to go a certain way. And if they're off my schedule even a little bit, I am not happy with that at all. It can happen. Keeping that in mind, there is a stage where this ability to adjust to different situations deteriorates. As children, adjusting to situations, very easy to do. There's so many families that say, we're thinking about moving back to India or moving to a different country, and their kids are like in 4th or 5th grade. And one of their worries is, will the kids adjust? When they move, the kids adjust instantly. It's the parents that have a hard time adjusting then at that point. So ability to make my mind malleable, change in different ways, that is nearly impossible to do if I'm stuck in the ways that I am right now. Change has to happen. Another factor is very clearly, we said awareness when it came to personal development. Constant self-awareness is a necessity. Where if I rely on someone else to tell me my faults, number one, there'll be too many of them. Second one is that they may not all be accurate. I have to judge for myself, where do I need to grow? But often the problem is not, we're not intelligent enough to look within. Do I have the courage to look within at my own personality then? During this pandemic, a lot of people, young professionals then, those without families, they were living away from their parents and families. Those 2.5 years where they had to be alone like that without any other interaction, we're still seeing the effects of that now. I'm making a broader point here, so stay with me. We're even that 2-year span of whatever they went through, that loneliness, we're seeing it now in terms of trust in relationships. At the last camp that we had, Labor Day camp, 9th and 10th grade was one combined class. Okay? The chicks are the ones who are the counselors. They teach these classes. 5th and 6th is one class, 7th and 8th one class, 9th and 10th one class, 11th and 12th. They rotate through the classes. Any chick who takes that class with those 25 9th and 10th graders, they come out like hollow-faced, like they just went to war, and they're like shaking almost. So I said, okay, these are younger chicks. Maybe it's nerve-wracking for them to teach. I said, okay. Second day of the camp, like some of my strongest chicks, they're walking out like they just saw a battle zone. I'm like, all right, something is wrong then. So I said, this next day I'm going to sit in the class with the kids, sit in the back. And like a reality TV camera, they notice me at first, but after a while they forget that I'm there, which is good for what's going to happen. The chicks are trying to teach this group of 9th and 10th graders, so they're 15, 16 years old. They're throwing things to each other. They're talking over the chicks. They're shouting. The way they're sitting is like lounging like Padmanabha Swami on the snake. That's how they're sitting. Completely disrespectful. So at a certain point I said, hey, pause to the chick. Mujhe kuch kehna hai. And I said, is this the way 15 and 16-year-olds act? The 5th and 6th graders are so well behaved in their class. What's gotten into you guys? And the dagger I delivered was, I don't know if it's that you're not getting enough attention at home, but this is not the place to seek that attention. And that completely, I didn't raise my voice. I said it just like this. They were silent the rest of the time and they listened. Now, I had to do that at that moment just to make them stop terrorizing the chicks. Thinking back though, if they were in 9th and 10th grade last year, what grades were they in during the pandemic? 6th and 7th, 6th through 8th, let's say. Aren't those the years where we grow the most socially in terms of how to interact with others? How to speak with the opposite gender also, that starts then. We're not taught this in a class, that this is how you talk to someone, this is how you behave, not like that. Norms, they develop that way. You talk too much or out of turn, people will kind of distance themselves, so you start to refine the way you speak. Now, these kids were completely online those 2 years. Whatever growth had to happen then did not happen, and they made it to 15 and 16. Can you imagine what their situation is? My broader point being, 2 years in the grand scheme of things they missed in that kind of personal development. Look how far it set them back and continues to set them back. In the spiritual journey then, how much consistency is needed then? How imperative is it that we cannot afford to take any breaks in this entire process? It becomes that much more apparent. Or else what we find is there's always a way to come back. Always a way to say, hey, 10 years I haven't stepped inside a temple or done anything spiritual. I want to come back. That's totally fine. But the relearning process, redisciplining, rethinking in a way that's line with totality and not just selfish, that's hard to do. That's very hard to do. I talk to these chick members sometimes, and something I talk about often with them is marriage, just getting their views on it and things. So they'll be like 29 years old, and they'll say, hey, Huddy, I have lots of time. Why do you bring this up now? said, no, man, you're not actually having that much time. You want to have kids, you want to do all these things, this is the time. Or when I talk to a 25-year-old, they're even more emphatic, saying, come on, this is way too soon. I said, look, I'll give you the experience of other chicks that I talk to, those that are in their 30s and 40s that have been through what you've been through at this age. When you get, because they say, I want to establish my career, I want to be stable that way, then I'll get married. I said, okay, think about it this way. You get married at the age of 25 and you're both struggling financially. You grow together at that point. You learn how to cover for the other person, how to face insecurity with that other person, how to support that other person and take that support as well, because not being established, you're finding your way together in this world. You get established career-wise and everything, in your 30s you find that companion, you're already set in your ways by then. The unlearning you have to do, the adjustment you have to make to grow with that other person becomes infinitely harder at that point. Where these areas of life then are not just jokes. Compared to what these skill set is, if these different skills of control of the body, control of the mind, desisting from duty that's not, action that's not my duty, forbearing, having that faith, single-pointed focus of right thing at the right time, if that does not translate to these areas of life, they will never make sense to me in a spiritual way. First thing is, can I make those qualities matter in those previous 8 areas? Whether it relates to how I entertain myself, what kind of hobbies I indulge in. Are they meant for my growth? Are they sattvic completely? When it comes to family and friends, what is my dynamic with these people? Do I choose friends solely based on, okay, they have similar interests as me, they speak the same language as me, they live in the same area as me? Is there one element of what is their spiritual outlook? Because honestly, anytime I ask in a session, not just this one, how many adults have at least a friend that they can closely talk to about spiritual matters without feeling ridiculed or judged or eye-rolled? There's like one hand that goes up with one friend, that's it. We have so many friends. I'm not talking Facebook friends, like physical, real friends. So many, yet this one topic we don't really want to bring up with them. Not that we're not interested in it, we feel judged if we bring that up. Or people say, stop talking about that stuff. So these 8 areas need this skill set right here. Now this is taken directly from the Shastra, saying this Shat Sampatti, this abundance of wealth in these qualities is what takes me forward on that spiritual path. So with how much time remaining? 12 more minutes remaining. Can we try something? Get into groups of 4 with people that you don't know. So your Jivan Sati, you can talk to them afterwards. So not them, of course. People that you don't know. In this small of a session, we stand all as one family, so I know we all know each other. Try to get with people you haven't really talked to. One topic to discuss is looking at Shama, Dhamma, Uparamaha, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam. What is one of these that you're not currently seeing in your life that you want to apply to one of these 8 areas? So out of the 6 Shat Sampatti, where it's Shama Dhamma, control of body and mind. Uparamaha, desisting from action that is not my duty. Titiksha, in the pairs of opposites, staying even-keeled. Shraddha, full faith, not full faith, full trust in what? Words of the scripture, words of the guru. Samadhanam, single-pointed focus, like that 12-year-old playing a video game. Which one of these do I want to apply to one of these areas of life? Because saying I want to apply it spiritually is very abstract. How do I want to apply it to my daily life? Discuss that in groups of 4, preferably people that you don't know well. You can use the whole room. Ready, set, go. Everyone jump up all at once.